If you enjoy stories about courage, respect, and justice, hit that like button and subscribe right now so you never miss a story like this one. It was a cool evening in Hong Kong, 1972. The streets were alive with people laughing, eating street food, and going about their lives. The neon lights of the city glowed above the crowded sidewalks. In a small but popular noodle restaurant near the harbor, families sat together enjoying their meals. Then everything changed. 5 heavy-set bikers walked through the door. Their leather jackets, loud boots, and aggressive stares silenced the restaurant instantly. Everyone froze. Even the kitchen sound seemed to stop. The bikers moved through the restaurant like they owned it, knocking cups off tables, laughing at people, and grabbing food from strangers' plates. Families looked down, avoiding eye contact. Children hid behind their parents. Nobody dared to say a word. And then one of the bikers saw a young couple sitting quietly in the corner. He walked straight over, leaned down with a smirk on his face, and started bothering the woman. Her boyfriend stood up nervously, and the biker shoved him back into his seat without blinking. The whole restaurant was watching. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. But in the far corner of the restaurant, a small, lean man slowly set down his chopsticks. He quietly folded his napkin. He pushed back his chair. Nobody recognized him at first. He was dressed simply. No flashy clothes, no symbols of wealth. Just a calm man in an ordinary shirt. He stood up. And that single moment, that one man choosing to stand, is what the bikers, the people in that restaurant, and even Chuck Norris would never forget. To understand why what happened next was so extraordinary, you need to understand who Bruce Lee really was. Born in San Francisco in 1940 and raised in Hong Kong, Bruce Lee was not just a martial artist. He was a philosopher, a teacher, and someone who spent his entire life studying the connection between the mind and the body. His father was a famous Cantonese opera singer, and young Bruce grew up surrounded by performance and storytelling. But the streets of Hong Kong in those days were rough. Gangs were common. Fights happened often, and young Bruce found himself in more than a few of them. His parents, worried about his safety, arranged for him to study under the legendary Wing Chun master, IP Man. Under IP Man's guidance, Bruce didn't just learn how to fight. He learned how to think, how to breathe, how to be still under pressure. What made Bruce Lee different from everyone else wasn't just his speed or his strength. It was his discipline. While other young men his age spent their evenings at bars or chasing trouble, Bruce would wake before sunrise to train. He would run miles before most people had even had breakfast. He would practice a single punch hundreds of times until it was not just fast, but perfect. By the early 1970s, Bruce Lee had already become a global sensation through his films. He had trained alongside some of the greatest martial artists in the world, including Chuck Norris, who at the time was one of the top full-contact karate champions in America. Chuck had trained with Bruce and spoken openly about how Bruce's speed and skill were unlike anything he had ever experienced. But more than all of that, Bruce Lee was known for something less visible: his values. He believed deeply in respect for other people, for oneself, and for the traditions that had been passed down through generations. He didn't believe in using strength to bully or intimidate. He believed strength existed to protect the weak and to stand up for what was right. On that evening in Hong Kong, sitting in that small noodle restaurant, Bruce Lee was just a man having dinner. He wasn't looking for trouble, but trouble walked through the door, and a man like Bruce Lee could not simply look away. When Bruce stood up, the closest biker turned to look at him with the kind of lazy arrogance that comes from never having been challenged. "Sit down," the biker said with a grin. "Before you get hurt, old man." The restaurant went completely silent. People held their breath. A few customers quietly grabbed their belongings, ready to run if things got worse. Bruce Lee said nothing. He simply looked at the biker, calmly, directly, without anger and without fear. His eyes were steady. His body was completely relaxed. That stillness was more frightening than any raised fist. The biker's grin faded slightly. Something felt wrong. He had bullied dozens of people in his life, and every single one of them had looked away, backed down, trembled, or pleaded. This man wasn't doing any of those things. "I said sit down," the biker repeated, this time louder, trying to reclaim control of the situation. Bruce took one slow step forward. "Let the couple go," Bruce said. His voice was quiet, not angry, just certain, like a man stating a fact about the weather. The other 4 bikers began moving away from their tables, sensing that something was about to happen. They spread out slightly, creating a loose circle. 5 large men against 1 lean man standing alone. To everyone watching, it looked like suicide. The first biker laughed and swung. What happened next is something witnesses describe differently depending on who you ask, because it happened faster than anyone could properly follow with their eyes. Those who were there said it was like watching water move. Like watching lightning. There was no wasted motion, no big dramatic wind-up, no Hollywood performance. Just pure, precise, unstoppable action. The first biker's swing missed completely, because Bruce was no longer standing where he had been. In the same breath, Bruce's response connected so fast and so cleanly that the biker stumbled backward into a table, sending plates crashing to the floor. The second biker moved in from the side. Bruce stepped into the attack rather than away from it, another principle of Wing Chun, and redirected the force so efficiently that the second man went down before he even understood what had happened. The third and fourth attacked together. This was the most dangerous moment, simultaneous pressure from 2 directions. But Bruce had trained for exactly this. He moved between them like water moving between rocks, using their own momentum against them, and within seconds both were on the ground. The 5th biker, the one who had started everything by bothering the young woman, stood very still. His 4 companions were down. The restaurant was completely silent. The couple who had been threatened sat frozen, staring. The 5th biker looked at Bruce Lee, and then he looked at the door. He ran. Bruce Lee did not chase him. He simply stood there, breathing evenly, completely composed, as if nothing particularly unusual had happened. He turned, walked back to his table, sat down, and picked up his chopsticks. Nobody in that restaurant said a word for a very long time. Word travels fast in Hong Kong. By the next morning, the story of what had happened at the noodle restaurant near the harbor had spread through the neighborhood like a warm wind. The restaurant owner told his neighbors. The young couple told their friends. The customers who had been there that evening told their families. And the story grew, as great stories always do. But what surprised people wasn't just that the bikers had been stopped. What surprised people was how Bruce had done it. Not with anger, not with cruelty, not with any desire to punish or humiliate. He had simply stood up, done what needed to be done, and then sat back down. No speeches, no showing off, no need for applause. Several weeks later, Chuck Norris, who was visiting Hong Kong at the time for film work, heard the story from multiple people. Chuck and Bruce had trained together and deeply respected each other. But even Chuck, who had competed against the best fighters in the world, admitted that hearing this story gave him a new level of understanding about what Bruce was. "I've trained with a lot of great fighters in my life," Chuck reportedly told a colleague. But Bruce was something else. He wasn't just fast. He was right. He always seemed to know exactly what the moment required. Chuck was also honest about something else. He said that in sparring sessions with Bruce, there were moments, just brief moments, where he caught a glimpse of what Bruce could truly do if he chose to. And in those moments, Chuck said, even he felt a chill. "The thing about Bruce," Chuck said, "was that you never felt like he was showing off. He was always in complete control. That was the most frightening part." The 5 bikers were never seen in that neighborhood again. The young couple from that evening later said in an interview that they had never felt so protected or so humbled in their lives. "He didn't know us," the young woman said. "He had nothing to gain by standing up, but he stood up anyway, just because it was right." That, more than any film or title or achievement, is what Bruce Lee's legacy is built on. Not the trophies, not the movies, the moment he chose to stand up when everyone else sat down. 50 years have passed since Bruce Lee walked this earth, but the lessons he left behind are as alive and as necessary today as they ever were. The first lesson is this: courage is a choice, not a gift. Bruce Lee was not fearless. Nobody truly is. But he understood something that most people spend their whole lives trying to learn. That courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is deciding that something else matters more than your fear. On that evening in Hong Kong, every person in that restaurant felt fear. The difference was that Bruce Lee felt it and stood up anyway. The second lesson is about preparation. Bruce Lee did not become great because of talent alone. He became great because of thousands of mornings before sunrise, thousands of repetitions, thousands of moments of choosing discipline over comfort. When the moment came, he was ready, not because he was lucky, but because he had prepared. There's a saying that goes, "The time to prepare for a storm is before it arrives." Bruce Lee understood this better than almost anyone. The third lesson is perhaps the most important one for each of us to carry into our own lives. Real strength is used to protect, not to dominate. The bikers in that restaurant had physical strength. They had numbers on their side, but they used their strength to frighten people, to take advantage of those who were weaker, to feel powerful by making others feel small. Bruce Lee had far greater strength, and he used it to give a young couple their dignity back. He used it to let every frightened person in that restaurant breathe again. He used it so that a woman could finish her meal in peace. That is the difference between a bully and a protector. Both may be strong, but only one uses that strength for something worthy. The fourth lesson is about character. Bruce Lee was already famous by 1972. He was already wealthy. He was already one of the most recognized faces in Asia. He could have simply looked away that evening, protected his reputation, avoided the risk. But he didn't, because for Bruce Lee, his character was not something he turned on for the cameras and turned off in private. He was the same man in the restaurant that he was on the film set. Consistent, principled, true to himself. How many of us can say the same? The final lesson belongs to Chuck Norris, who spent years training and competing at the highest levels. When a man of Chuck Norris's experience and ability says that Bruce Lee was in a different category, that says everything. It tells us that greatness is not just about being better than others. It is about being completely, honestly, fully yourself, mastering your own potential, living according to your own deepest values, even when nobody is watching, especially when nobody is watching. Bruce Lee passed away in 1973 at the age of 32. He left behind films, philosophy, a legacy in martial arts, and stories like this one that continue to travel around the world, told by grandparents to grandchildren, shared by strangers who have never met. He stood up one evening in Hong Kong, and 50 years later, we are still talking about it, because that is what it means to live with courage, with discipline, and with a heart that refuses to stay seated when something wrong is happening right in front of you. Bruce Lee. If this story moved you, if it reminded you of what real courage looks like, please give this video a like and subscribe to our channel so you never miss a story like this. Drop a comment below. What was the most powerful moment in this story for you? See you in the next story.